Okay. So Daniel already introduced me a bit, but just to give you a better perspective, because I'm kind of new to District 71, so maybe a lot of you don't really know me yet. I've been in Toastmaster at this moment about a bit more than 3 years. During this time, I got to DTM, so that kind of shows I've been mostly spending my time on Toastmasters, something my wife complains sometime about. But uh, during this time, last year, I was an area director in District 108. That's a district in Europe, in Central Europe, Poland, and Baltic countries and Finland, so 5 countries. I was one of the area directors there, and I got the area director of the year award there last year. During this time, as Daniel mentioned, I helped with 4 clubs chartering, and I will be giving their examples throughout this presentation because that's where most of my knowledge and most of my ideas and mistakes that we made come to. So I will be referring back to those. And there was 1 corporate club, 3 community clubs, so there is enough diversity there as well. I moved to Dublin in May this year, so new to District 71, new to Dublin. Now I'm a member of 3 clubs here. One of the oldest club, probably in the district, the Dublin Club, Society Toastmasters, and Uncensored Speakers, so 3 clubs. And I'm very happy to be helping Daniel as club extension chair for District 71. So trying to help as much as possible with any new initiative that we have in the district. And I really believe that world would be a better place if we had more Toastmasters, really. The best people I have met are in Toastmasters, and I really think that what we are doing here could be really beneficial for others out there as well. So that's why I think Club Extensions here is a very good position for me. So that's me. What I will be talking about. So there are 3 things mainly that I want to talk about. First is the planning, how to plan when you want to start a new club. Very, very important. The next one is the kickoff meeting. And some of you might know it as demo meeting or open house. Basically, the first meeting that you ever have of a club. We'll go back a bit into that as well. And then what happens once you get 20 members that are needed for charter? Now what? What are the next steps that you have to make sure that the club is fully official and it can take its first steps? Finally, I hope to keep some time at the end for any question and answer and discussion. So if you have anything, you can just write it in the chat even during the presentation and we can come back to it, or just leave it till the end. There's a very, I just wanted to clarify in the very beginning. So there are different types of clubs out there. There's community club, which includes, of course, the normal open clubs that we are all aware of. Then we have some advanced clubs and specialty clubs, like clubs focusing on storytelling or humor or some other specific skill. I classify all of them as community club, essentially because they're open to anyone most of the time, and it's members that are paying their own fee. Then there are different clubs which are corporate, where usually it's the corporation or the company that is sponsoring the membership. And then we have some other kind of clubs like university or school clubs, which are somehow similar to community, but have a bit different characteristics as well. You have Gable clubs and online clubs as well. What I will be focusing on today will be mostly community and corporate clubs, mainly because that's what most of our clubs usually are. And that's what I know most about as well. But I think what I will be talking about community will probably apply to others as well. And also Daniel has more experience on these than me, and he would jump in if we have any questions about that as well. So let's go. The first one is the planning, right? Why do I say planning is the most important? Because I have seen people trying to start clubs for years, literally for years. And I can understand that in a situation when you're doing it in a completely new place. Like if there were no club in Dublin and you want to start a club for the very first time, I can imagine it can take you a long time because nobody knows about Toastmaster. You don't have any help around you. But at the same time, if you're starting a club, especially corporate clubs or community clubs in an area where other clubs exist, there is not a very good reason why it should take us that long. And one of the reasons that I feel it takes that long is because there is a very important part that is missed in the beginning, and that's the planning. And if we do the right planning, we start on the right foot. And I don't see a reason why we cannot start a club inside 3 months, even if it's a community club. Corporations are of course easy because it's not about usually it's a sponsoring organization, so it's just easy to recruit people. It has other challenges, but uh, even for community club, there is no reason we cannot do it in 3 months. And that's where I will be talking mostly about. The first step when you're planning to start a club, when you get an idea, I want to start a Toastmaster club, the first thing that you have to figure out is what is your unique selling point, right? Uh, if it is you're starting a club in a city, in a town where there is no other Toastmaster club, it's pretty easy, right? There is no such thing. There is no other club like Toastmasters there, so that by itself is your unique selling point because you will be the only public speaking leadership focused club out there. That's very easy. But if you're starting a club in a place, in a big town, or in a city where already there are a couple of clubs exist, how does your club differentiate from the others? What makes your club unique than the other? It's very important to know that, because if it is just another public speaking club, why can't I just join an already established club? Why should I come to you? And this is the question that anyone who comes to your meeting will have. And then corporations, right? In corporation, uh, most often we go to the executive team or people who are decision makers who have the money, and we try to convince them about starting a club. So what's in it for them? Why should they care about Toastmasters? Why should they start a club in the company for their employees? What will the company gain out of it? We know what the employees will gain out of it, but what will the company gain out of it? This is very important. And I will give you a couple of examples of unique selling point. So last year, or the year before, I think it was a club that was specifically started, that I helped with eventually, for project managers. So we had already few community clubs in the city. So what the guys did, they wanted a club focused on just the project managers or people who are in a management position in different companies. And their idea was that the skills we learn would help them in their career. At the same time, they would also talk about these topics in their meetings that can help them in their own discipline. So it makes it unique than just a community club, because there were other community clubs. That really helps a lot in a lot of ways. For example, you know what your target audience is in that case. It's not everyone. It's people who either are project managers or want to be one, and it's very easy to reach them because you now know your target audience. So what they did, they simply went to the Project Management Institute, which is just an organization for project managers, and they provide trainings and networking opportunities, and they have a lot of networking events. So they just went to those networking events and tried to sell the club there. That's very easy then to get members interested and getting those guests to your meetings. That's the first step. The second one, and that club that I was part of. So I used to work for Nokia in Poland, and I was working in a city where they had more than 3,000 employees. A lot of them were engineers, so not a lot of management people. Engineers generally think they don't need to speak, which is not true because we all know everyone has to speak at some point at work. You know, even if it's just telling and your manager or your colleagues what you did yesterday. So it's an important skill. When I was pitching to the head of Nokia in Poland, uh, to start a club, my unique selling point was not what benefit the employees would get. That's easy to sell. My benefit was what Nokia will get out of that. What is the advantage of for Nokia for having a Toastmasters club? At that point in my city, there was no company having a corporate club. Now, that's an advantage for Nokia if they are the first one, because next time they are going for recruitment, they can say, hey, we have a Toastmasters club. Not only can you work in a cool company and do all the stuff that you want to do, but you can also improve your public speaking and leadership skills for free in a nice environment, an internationally recognized environment. So this is just one example, but you have to find that unique selling point for the person who is paying. In a community club, it's the members. Why should they join your club and not another one? Why is it important to learn these skills? And you will find a lot of material on Toastmasters website about that as well. And we will share supporting material with after this webinar that you can use as well. And for corporation, it's important what's in it for the company. I have seen people trying to convince what's in it for the employees. That doesn't work. You have to convince people who is giving money, and they always ask, what's in it for me? So you have to convince them about that. That's the first thing. Once you have the unique selling point and you can sell it inside 2 minutes, just like a table topic, you're pretty much ready to go. The rest of the things become very easy after that. The next thing you have to do is form a team. I have never seen a single person start a club by themselves. Just doesn't happen, not possible. There are way too many things. If you try that, you will burn out. You will give up because there are too many hurdles to solve. The first thing you have to do is find a team. Now, I come from Pakistan, and there is a very common saying in Pakistan: a one person is one, but if you have two person, it's not two, actually, it's 11, because when you combine forces, the result is always bigger, and that's what Toastmasters is all about as well. And it's not that hard to find a team. It doesn't have to be Toastmasters. You just have to talk to your friends and colleagues who might be interested in that idea as well. And if you can find some experienced Toastmasters, that's even more beneficial. At the same time, this would be the right moment to contact your district team. So contact your area director, division director, or club growth director and ask them to assign you sponsors. Every new club should have two sponsors. And it's also for the benefit of those members, because this is one of the requirement for DTM. So any experienced member who wants to get a DTM at some point would want to be a sponsor of the club. That can help a lot. Ideally, in my experience, if you have 4 people in your team, that's the perfect size to start a club. Why? Because 1 can be president and 3 can be the VPs, membership, PR, and education. Uh, then you have already the nucleus of the new club ready when you're starting the club. It makes it so much easier to build that foundation that is so much harder if you don't have that team. So second step, very important, team. The next one, of course, is the venue. You have to find a venue. For corporation, very easy. Usually you have rooms at work, not a problem at all. For community, much bigger problem. And here, my only advice, I mean, find as cheap a place as possible, because you don't want to add extra expense to your membership fee. But at the same time, find a place which is quiet, has all the facilities like a projector, and seating and everything, so it doesn't feel like a handicap to some people, right? If they cannot present something, or there is no flip chart or things like that. So try something like that. I have seen meetings in restaurants. I have seen meetings in university or school. I have seen meetings in hotels. There is no reason you cannot find, and you can always try to bargain. So if you I've seen people, clubs meet in the hotel, but they don't pay anything, because they in return train the hotel staff about public speaking. So there is always this barter you can try, where you don't have to pay for a venue. And there are a lot of venues usually in the city that are empty, especially on weekdays in the evening, even in hotels. So it's worth going and talking about it. At the minimum, you can get a discounted rate. The next one is, of course, the budget. Uh, for a community club, it's a bit easier in that sense. It's not one person paying all the fee, it's actually all the members paying their own fee, but you still have to calculate. So what you have to calculate, once you know your venue, you know how much extra you have to charge on top of the Toastmasters international charges, which are $45 per 6 months for one member, in addition $20 new member fee, and so on. Plus you have this charter fee of $125. That's the fee you have to pay when you're starting a new club. So you have to take that into account. And Daniel has a very cool Excel sheet where you can put all the numbers, if you have dual members or if they're transfer members and everything, and it just calculates how much money you need. My suggestion here is just keep in mind that there can be some certain extra expenses. Like at some point you would want to have some ribbons, like best table topic, best speaker, or you would want to buy some stuff for the club in general, I don't know, speaker or microphone, or many clubs, or camera. Many clubs do these kind of things. Just keep that in mind, think about that a bit, and put that into budget, because once you define your membership fee for 6 months, it's probably not so easy to change it afterwards. You would need a vote with your membership and so on. So define it in the beginning with enough room for these small little things, but at the same time, don't make it too expensive, because you want to make it as affordable as possible. So that's the budget. And the fifth step is marketing. But before marketing, this is probably a right moment to fill out the first form for chartering, and that's called Form 1. And you will find that in the material I will be sharing after the webinar. That form actually can be filled online, and that's what I would recommend. So you just go to toastmasters.org, start a club, and you will get a link to put the application to organize. That's what it's called. And it asks you simple questions like which city it is, which country, If you know the district and area, perfect, put it there. If you know the sponsors, perfect, put it there. If you don't know it, you can skip that and these can be added later. But at the end, it also asks you to pay the charter fee, which is $125. The advantage of doing that at this moment is because once you do this, the Toastmaster, it's registered first of all, so we all see it on the district reports. Second, a charter kit is sent to you. In my experience, coming to Europe, it can take about 3 to 4 weeks. Uh, but the advantage of that is because you already have a gavel. When it comes, it includes a gavel, which is a very Toastmaster thing, and I really love it. And it's good to have it for the first meeting. It has timer cards, it has club leadership handbooks, and it has some other useful material like flyers and things like that that can be very useful for a new club. So it's good to have those things when you come to your first meeting. If you're not 100% sure that you will be able to charter this club, maybe uh, you would think that it's not worth putting that $125, right? But I would say if you have done your planning correctly, you would be confident and this would be the right moment to do. Finally, the marketing. So that's key. What is your goal with marketing? Your goal is to get as many potential members in the room for your kickoff meeting, for your first meeting. If it's a community club, at minimum you need 50 people in the room. That should be your goal. Now, how to get those 50 people, right? Uh, Go back to your unique selling point. Go back to your target audience. Who is your target audience? Is it young people just graduating from university and starting their new jobs? Is it people in their mid-career? Is it people who are retired? Is it a corporation where it's actually easier because it's all the employees, or it's the specific department employees that you want to target? So all of these things, they will help you to find the right tool to do it. So for example, uh, my friend recently said, we were talking about Facebook as a useful tool for marketing, and I was saying that I have found it to be pretty useful in the past. And she said, Zen, but you are already 30-year-old. You are used to Facebook, but nobody who is 20-year-old actually using Facebook. They're all using Snapchat. They're using TikTok or other new things that I don't even know about. The thing is, if you know your target audience, you know which tool to go to. And if you use proper tool to reach that audience, that's the way to get the right guest. You don't want the guest that you don't want, right? That's not the goal. To just make the numbers. You want 50 people who are your target audience and who would join your club. There are a lot of tools you can use. And I think we could do a whole webinar just on marketing, but just to list, I think the easiest way to do in today's age is digital marketing, and that includes Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, meetups, Eventbrite, a lot of these things. What I would do recommend though is, regardless of the tool that you use, once you start to get people interested and they start marking on the event on whatever platform you're using, send them a personalized message. A day or two before the event, write them a message. Say, hey, thanks for registering. We are so looking forward to see you. Here are the details. Just repeat one more time. Here is the venue. This is the time we will start. And if you have any questions, just write back to us. And make it a bit personalized. So just like write the name in the beginning, dear Zan, and so on, and then write the message. It really, really helps a lot. Even if they will not show on that first meeting, there's quite high likelihood that they would show up at a later meeting, because everybody likes to feel special and you just made them feel special. We have tried that, not only Toastmaster, we started a community organization back in my previous city, and we did used to do this all the time, and it always works. It works on Facebook, it works on other channels as well. So try these things, because your goal is to get 50 people in the room. That's marketing. What happens next is the kickoff meeting. But before that, just to recap what you have to plan. First point, your unique selling point. Why should potential members pay money to join your club? What's so special about your club compared to another Toastmasters club, or what's so special in general about a Toastmasters club? Or for a corporation, what's in it for the decision makers, for the executive team, people who are in charge of money in the company? What's in it for them to sponsor this club? Not for employees, but what's in it for them. The second is form a team. contact your district team, contact your area director, club growth director to find you those sponsors that can help you. Find the good venue, create a budget so you know how much to charge for each member. This is mostly for community clubs. And marketing. Use the right channel for the right audience to make sure that the people that are coming to your first meeting are the people that you want to join the club. It's very easy to make numbers sometimes. You can get a lot of Toastmasters in when you're starting a new club, but that's not going to help you a lot unless they bring 3 friends with them, right? But you can use your Toastmaster networking. So what I did try last year was I used to send an email to all the members in the area that, hey, we are starting this new club. This is the venue. This is the purpose. This is the audience we are looking for. If you know someone who would fit this criteria, please forward this to them. And that did actually help. One very good example was, so I was living in Poland and there's a huge Ukrainian community there, but there was no club speaking Ukrainian. And some guy decided to start a club in Ukrainian language. So that's the target audience. It doesn't matter then, it doesn't make sense to advertise to everyone in that case. So they were targeting only the Facebook group that they knew Ukrainian communities are involved in, or some cafes which were owned by Ukrainians to do it there, or a community center and so on. So targeting really specific people. And then when I sent an email to everyone, I said, hey, maybe you have some colleague or a friend at work that you know who is from Ukraine, who speaks Ukrainian, who might want to improve this skill. Here is the date, here's the venue, here's how you can reach the club. So do all of these things to make sure the right audience comes to that first meeting. Now let's move to the kickoff meeting. Well, first of all, it should be called a kickoff meeting. I don't think it should be called a demo meeting or an open house or any other thing. The reason is when you say demonstration or demo meeting or even an open house, it's basically to showcase what your club is or what Toastmasters is. It's nothing new. It's not, you don't, by name, you're not suggesting that you're starting anything new. When you say kickoff meeting, that's the beginning of something new. That creates an automatic excitement in the person who reads it or who comes to the meeting. It's special. It's the beginning of something new, and they have an opportunity to be part of it. It's not just a demonstration meeting, right? Call it kickoff meeting. Don't call it demo meeting. I think it makes a huge difference. But that's just my personal opinion. I always called it kickoff meeting. And by the way, if any of you are club coaches and are working with struggling clubs who require a lot of members, who are very down on membership, you can use the kickoff meeting style for those clubs as well. And I have tried that, and it does work very well even for existing club as well. And I was calling them kickoff meeting even then, even though it's not really a new club, right? But kickoff meeting, call it kickoff because it's beginning of something new. Now, what is your goal for the kickoff meeting? And this is very important. If you don't go in with this goal, and if you don't go it with the right planning, it will be a long time before you will be able to start a club. Your goal should be to start the club as soon as possible. The goal is get 20 members on the first kickoff meeting to fill out the form and show an interest that they are going to join. Now, for corporation, it is very easy. If there is a sponsoring organization, usually employees would be okay to fill out the form because they know that the company is paying, right? It's just another nice benefit to have. For community club, it's much, much harder. And I will come back to that. What are the arguments you can use to convince them? But the goal should be to get 20, or if not 20 is not working, as many people to fill out the form. You don't want a situation where you have people showing interest and then they go home and then you have to chase them to fill out a simple membership form or get them to pay the membership fee. You want to do it on the same day as the kickoff meeting. So that's your goal. Go in with that frame of mind. Go in with that kind of planning for your kickoff meeting. It actually does mean that you have to start your marketing 3 to 4 weeks before your kickoff meeting. Otherwise, it will not really work. 5 days is just simply not enough usually. So that's your goal. Now, how to conduct a kickoff meeting? I have put here a sample agenda in the support material that I will share. There is also a much better, detailed agenda as well available there. And I will cover only the key points here. To do a good kickoff meeting, you need 3 people. 2 Toastmasters, preferably who are good speakers, and 1 can be anyone, because their job is to be timer, and we can teach how to be a timer in a meeting pretty easily. So how would a general agenda would look like? The first thing, you have to prepare before you come to the meeting. Come to the venue at least an hour before. Make sure the seating is properly arranged. Make sure everybody knows how to get to that room, that there are proper signs everywhere. Put a slide there with Toastmasters logo there, and a tagline where leaders are made. Or if you have something specific to your club, put it there on the screens so people know this is the right room, right? Play some good music, uh, create an atmosphere. So you have to be doing all of these things, and then you have to be standing on the door and welcoming everyone. And as you welcome everyone, you have to give them agenda of the meeting, a bit of information about your club, but one very specific thing, and that's a very small 3x5 card with one simple question on it. And the question is, what's the one thing that you're more very proud of, or that is unique about you, or that's very interesting about you, that nobody else in this room knows? Or maybe an interesting story that happened to you, or thing that happened to you recently, something like that. And there is a sample of this in the supporting material as well. Give it to them, ask them to fill it out and put it in a special place in the meeting room before the meeting starts. You want everyone to fill this. Before I go further, so all of this kickoff meeting plan is basically from a guy called Rick Furbish. You can Google him, you will find a lot of his videos. I will put the videos link as well in the supporting material. He created this format. He used this format to start 100 clubs in just 3 years. And that was in US and Canada, if I am not wrong. That means that was already in a mature market, right? They already have a lot of clubs, and he was still able to start 100 more clubs using this format. So I'm just following him. It's not created by me, but I have used it, and it works very, very, very well. And I cannot emphasize enough that you should be using this format. So that's the preparation before the meeting. Now, how to start the meeting? You need a Toastmaster. This agenda is about for 1 hour meeting, because usually in a corporate you would have 1 hour, but you can easily extend it for a community club to 90 minutes or 2 hours if you want. The first thing, first 10 minutes, reserve it for Toastmaster to explain in general about Toastmasters. What are we about? What are the benefits of joining a club? And then slowly talk about this exact club. Tell, we are starting a new club, and here is the reason we are doing it. Here is the unique thing about this club. Here are the benefits you're going to get if you join us on this journey. So introduce the club, introduce Toastmasters, and that's it. Don't give too much information. Don't talk about money or the process of joining, because this is not the right moment to do this. Next, introduce and just tell them that we are going to show you just a typical meeting, how it looks like. Next thing, you want a speech, 7-minute, 5 to 7 minute general speech by a Toastmaster. Now, there are two things. First, before you introduce the speaker, tell the audience that they would be actually evaluating the speaker. Because in Toastmasters, there are no teachers. We learn by other people's evaluation. So that's what they would be doing after they hear the speech. And to just help them, there is a very simple evaluation criteria that we created, like, what did you like about the speech? Was the opening good? When did it grab your attention? And things like that. Very, very simple. Anybody can do it. We just give it to everyone when they enter the room, or we leave it on the chair. So it's very easy to follow them during the speech, and they can write everything. The second thing, who should be this speaker? I have seen arguments that it should be a relatively new speaker because we don't want to show someone really good and scare people off. I think it works the other way, because we are saying it's a public speaking organization. What we should be showing is our best. So in my opinion, get a good speaker, like a really good speaker, and just contact your Toastmasters around you. Maybe it's you. If you think you have a very good speech, give it. The topic of the speech is not that important. If it can be linked to Toastmaster a bit, perfect. If it can't, leave it as it is. Maybe it's a funny story. Maybe it's something about leadership, whatever. If it's a good speech by a good speaker, that's what you want. Invite the speaker on the stage. They do their thing. The timer shows their card. At this moment, it would be a good idea to tell a bit about the timer as well. After the speech is done, you can do a group evaluation. What is a group evaluation? it's basically a chance for anyone in the audience to say what they liked and what they would like to see next time. We all know how it works, right? We are all Toastmasters, so most of us know how evaluations are work. It's better if it's a Toastmaster leading it. So first thing you want to do is say, okay, so now I want you to just tell us, what did you like about the speech? And encourage the audience to speak, right? They will give a lot of things that they liked. And then say, okay, what would you recommend this speaker to improve for next time? Maybe something that didn't work for you. And then you would get some suggestion. And then you round it off again. Anything else that you liked about the speech? So kind of making it a sandwich. That shows how the evaluation works as well. But what it shows more importantly to everyone who is new to Toastmaster is that anybody can evaluate. Anybody can evaluate. There is no such thing as a perfect speech, and everybody's opinion actually counts because it's just an opinion, right? It's up to the speaker to figure out if they want to use it or not. And they start to speak. They feel valued. They are not just mere spectators looking at a demo. They are actually taking part in the meeting. So you want them in this state of mind as well. So they're already getting this feeling, hey, it's not that hard. I can actually give an opinion about a speech, and everybody can give an opinion. So that's the group evaluation. And now the most interesting part of this meeting, and that's I call it game because Rick Furbish called it a game, but it's more or less a table topic, right? Remember the card that we asked them to fill in the beginning with one thing that they're most proud of, their more unique thing about them, or the most interesting thing about them, or a very cool story or thing that happened to them recently, right? Take out one card, read what is written on it, don't say the name, ask the group to point who they think it is. So for example, somebody wrote, I went to Asia recently for travel. So read this. Okay, this person went to Asia for travel recently. Who do you think it is in this room? At 1, 2, 3, start pointing to each other. And you say 1, 2, 3, and people would start randomly pointing. Nobody knows who it is. Usually nobody knows who they're talking about. Maybe their friend knows who they're talking about, but usually nobody will notice. But it already creates this interaction. So it's very important. Sometimes I've seen people skip it, but I think it works really well. Once they are done pointing and there is a bit of laughter in the room, just say the name. Okay, so can the person who just went to Asia stand up? And the person who wrote it will stand up. You invite them on the stage and you just ask them to share the story, like how was the trip or whatever they wrote on that piece of paper. Just tell us a bit more about that. Why we do it in this way, right? That's not how we do it in our meetings. In meetings, when we do table topic, the topic is given to you and then you speak. Now, imagine if that's what you do for a person who is completely nervous. That's the reason they came to Toastmasters, because they're nervous. They don't like public speaking. They're afraid of it. And you give them a topic like, what's the meaning of success? And then they are on stage and 30 people are looking at them or 50 people are looking at them. That's not the right way for them to learn what Toastmasters is about. That's too stressful. They're not going to come back. That's why we do it in this way, because they know what they wrote. It's their own story. Everybody is in a good mood right now. So it's easier to talk about it. And you don't talk about timing. You don't say, hey, okay, here is the timer sitting there. Please have a look at the card. You don't count any hours or grammar mistakes or anything like that. You don't say there is going to be any evaluation. You just ask them to share their story. Everybody can share their story. They're not going to speak for very long. Usually they will be done even in a minute because they're already usually nervous, right? You do it with the one person. They give their speech. Everybody, lead a huge applause. So everybody's applauding them. They go back to their speech, to their seat. You pick up the next card. You do the same exact thing. By this time, everyone in the audience know that they can be next. The next person calling to be called on stage could be them. So they start to remember, oh, what did I write on my card? And they start to mentally prepare and practice what they're going to say if they're called on stage. Isn't that what a good speaker does? They know their topic, and in this case, the audience will know their topic because that's what they wrote, and they practice. In this case, after the first two people, everybody would be a bit more practiced and rehearsed because they're already preparing themselves in their mind, so they will get more comfortable. And the last point is because everyone is doing it, it kind of creates a huge interaction in the room. It makes it more similar to what a meeting looks like, not like a demo meeting where we have Toastmasters doing all of the roles and everybody else is just watching. That's not how our usual meeting works, right? In our usual meeting, all the people are involved, and that's what we want to show them there. Do this as much as possible. I put here 20 minutes because this is a 1 hour meeting agenda. If you have longer, do it for longer because this is the most interesting part of the meeting. And trust me, it is always full of laughter and people are having fun. They're enjoying themselves. If uh, if possible, do it for everyone in the room who is a guest. Leave the Toastmasters out, but do it for everyone who is a guest. If not, just do it as many as possible. Even if people don't get a chance to speak, they would actually regret it and they would join simply because they want to speak next time. The final part, and this is very important, is closing the sale, right? Now you're done and you have shown how a Toastmaster meeting looks like. You have given them a win. They have come on stage, they have talked about themselves, and everybody applauded them. You have made them feel exactly how a member feels after usually they give their icebreaker. That's a pretty good feeling, right? So this is the moment to tell them how to join a club. In a community club, you would at this point say, hey, if you want to join, we are starting this club. If you want to be part of this journey, here's what you need to do. Fill out the form, give them forms right away. Here is the fee that you have to transfer. Tell them the exact amount. And then make a good argument about why this fee is actually worth it. And usually if you do a calculation, one Toastmaster meeting is more or less worth 1 cup of coffee at Starbucks. That's a pretty good argument, right? You're getting so much out of an organization, out of an educational program that has been used by millions of people for last almost 100 years, and you get it for a price of cup of coffee. It's very, very cheap. In case of corporations, if the sponsoring organization is paying for the money, just simply say, hey, don't worry about the money part. It's covered by your HR or people in the company. What you need to do is just fill out the form and that's it. You're joining the club. Why you want, and since you want to encourage them to fill it right away, so you know exactly how much interest there is another thing that works well. Everybody wants to feel special, and in Toastmaster Club, the people who start a club, they are called charter members. They get their own certificate, and you can actually request for any club to Toastmaster International and ask them who were the charter members, and they would tell you because they have all the records. And in some clubs, they have those names actually on a plaque, right? So it's very important to be a charter member of a club, and that's what you want to tell them. Hey, we are starting this club, but if you join today, you will be a charter member of this club, and in 50 years people may not remember who joined 1 year from now, but they will remember who was the charter member because your name will be on those charter members and maybe it will be on a plaque in this room. You want them to feel special. You want them to be able to feel like they're part of this something new that's just beginning and it's exciting and they want to be there. That really, and just because you have done everything before that, which has made them excited about this usually works. Now, if you have 50 people in the room, 50 potential guests for your target audience, and you do all of this in this specific way, there is, in my opinion, and I would just go and take a guess, in my experience, 75% chance is that you will get the 20 members right away signed. If you will not get 20 members, probably you would be very, very close to 20. So it's so much more motivation after that meeting because you just need to get 5 more members or 3 more members instead of 15 more members. So this meeting works, this whole agenda works. I have tried it personally in all the 4 clubs that I was working with last year. The final thing, and that happens after the meeting, it will be exhausting because you have been working on this meeting for a lot of time, for a few weeks minimum, right? The meeting went well, everything went well. You would be exhausted and probably you wouldn't want to do anything when you come home. Don't do anything on that same day, but the next day, the work starts again because now you need to follow up with everyone, right? If it was a community club, remind them, thank them for coming, thank them for showing interest, tell them, hey, there is one more formality left. Can you please do the payment? Here are the details. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to get to us and things like that. Tell them about the next meeting when it's going to be. Same goes for corporate. Follow-up is very important. Do it either with email, phone number, Facebook, whatever you feel like is the right way to do for your club. But do the follow-up. Now, I'm assuming here that by this time you have gotten 20 signups that you need for charter. In case you didn't get, my recommendation would be to repeat this whole process and don't wait too long this time. So do it next week or the 2 weeks later. Do another kickoff meeting and invite more people and ask those people who have already shown interest to bring their friends, and that does help. You would maximum need 3 more meetings to get it done, right? In the worst case. Uh, just to give an example of that Ukrainian club that we started in Poland, I think at maximum there will be 50,000 people in that city that speak Ukrainian. Yet we were able to charter a Ukrainian speaking club. That there was no other example of a Ukrainian speaking club anywhere in the world except in Ukraine. And we started one in Poland with just 50,000 people who speak Ukrainian. And obviously, not a lot of them were even target audience because they are old or they don't really need public speaking and things like that. But we did it. We did this kickoff meeting, I think 2 times, and we were able to get 20 people to sign up. So it is possible, even in a small town, in my opinion. If you have 50,000 people town, if it's a bit smaller, I don't know, it might be a bit tougher. So what happens next? You got the 20 members. Now what? What is the next step? The first thing you need to do, you need to find the officer. My recommendation: the very next meeting you have after kickoff, make it a usual Toastmaster meeting, right? Get one person to do the icebreaker, maybe somebody who knows about Toastmaster already and is experienced. So get an evaluator, do all the roles, plus do an election for the officers. So tell the members the benefit of becoming an officer, right? There is no experience required to even become a president of a Toastmasters club. There is no such thing, right? So anybody can take any of those roles. And we say where leaders are made. How are those made? Usually it starts by being a club officer. So you tell all of these things and you tell the potential benefit of becoming an officer, and you tell them that you will be trained and don't worry about it. Everything will be told to you by your area director or division director and so on. We have club officer training, or we can help with that. So tell all of these things, elect those officers because you need it for the chartering. The next thing is paperwork. There are 5 more forms if you have filled the original one, or in total there are 6 forms that you have to fill. Nothing special. It's just putting details about all the members and everything, collecting the right amount of money that you have to transfer to Toastmasters International. I can help you with that. Just write me an email. I have done it now 4 times. I can do it in 1 hour for a new club. It's not a problem. For a new person, it may seem daunting to fill all those forms, but it's not. It's really, really simple. There is one thing I would recommend, an additional thing apart from those 6 charter forms that come from the headquarters, is an Excel sheet which has the same information as the membership form, but just in an Excel sheet. What I have found is, and I think somebody from headquarters told us that it's just easier for them when they're creating those accounts. It's much easier when they're copying it, all the details from an Excel file rather than from a PDF file. So just add this extra, and in the supporting material, you will find one example of that as well. Send that paperwork. In my experience, the quickest it has been was 10 days. The longest it was 3 weeks. It really depends on how many applications at the headquarters they have to process. I don't know why it takes so long, but probably it's a bit of manual process on their side still. But it will take a couple of weeks for them to process, and in a couple of weeks, you should get an email with "Welcome to Toastmaster" for all the members. And this is when the district will know as well, so we will know all of these things. And this is the point where you want to uh, get assigned mentors. Who assigns mentors? It's also the club growth director or the district director. And in our case, it's Elizabeth who is helping and taking care of the club mentors and club coaches. So she's the person to contact. Or in usual cases, it's actually your area director and division director who can help, who know people who are experienced Toastmaster. And because club mentor is also a requirement for DTM, they know who might be interested. So get those people involved, get 2 of them assigned. It's a 6-month role. They help you through the first 6 months in building club quality. Another thing that I have done and I recommend is just getting more experienced Toastmaster to come and be the general evaluator or speech evaluators, because that helps to build the quality of the club. Do it for at least a couple of months until members know what the standards of a usual club are. Encourage your members to visit other clubs just so they get an idea on how more established clubs work, especially the officers, if the officers are brand new to Toastmasters. The fourth thing, Get them to do their icebreakers as soon as possible. You don't even have to wait for the club to be officially chartered, because icebreaker, including all the level 1 actually nowadays for pathways, is available. So anybody, even a prospective club, a prospective member, can come and do an icebreaker. You want them to get on stage as soon as possible, get them involved as soon as possible. And finally, you have to build a community. And this takes time, but the moment to start that is from the very beginning. You want to decide how a club will feel like, right? Is it a bit, there is a social side to it? What is the extra advantage beyond our pathways educational material, right? We all know, especially who have been in Toastmaster for a while, it's not just about learning, it's a lot about people as well. And this takes time, but this is the moment to start building that community. You may want to think about get to know event, a charter party. I have seen clubs do a charter party after they get the final fully charter. They give on the charter party the charter certificate, charter member certificate, and everything like that. And that really, because it's in an informal place, usually it's a social event. People get to know each other and they feel being part of a community. They feel being part of a club. So that's what you want, because that's what's going to keep a healthy club in future. And another thing, and the final point, this is not the moment to stop. This is actually the beginning of the journey. This is not the end. This is the beginning. Now, actually, the tough part begins. Now you have to build membership. 20 is not enough. If you want a successful club, you should target 30 as soon as possible. So you have to keep recruiting more members, because at next renewal, they will drop. There is no way you will not lose members. You will lose members, and that's why you want to keep recruiting as much as possible for as long as possible. That brings me more or less to the end of the webinar. Just to summarize everything, planning, find your unique selling point, build the team, find the venue, create a budget, do proper marketing for the right audience, do the kickoff meeting. You will find more detail about that in the supporting material. And once you have gotten those 20 members to sign up and you have gotten the fee and everything, elect officers, because that's one of the things you need for the paperwork. Do the paperwork, ask the district to assign 2 mentors, ask other Toastmaster clubs to help you with the quality of the club, get them to do the icebreaker for every new member, and build the community. Have some social aspect to the club as well, apart from the usual meeting. The supporting material you will find on this link, very easy to find. It's a Dropbox link, so there are a lot of files there as well, including this presentation. Anyway, I will be posting it on the event, and probably we can send it over email as well to everyone who is interested. So you will find this presentation, the kickoff meeting materials, some sample agenda and stuff, new club forms, and Rick Furbish meeting, where he explains all that I explained as well in a much better way than I did. But you will get an idea, and he's a very good speaker, so it's not boring. It's 30-minute video. Finally, you can reach me through these channels. You can write me an email. You can find me on Facebook, or you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to help. And at this moment, I think we still have 10 minutes. So if you want to ask any question, I'm here.
Zane, thank you very much for that talk. It's very informative and inspiring. There is a question in the question box. The question, I'm not sure who sent it in, is does the club have to pay the $20 and the $45 for new members? If so, how? Unless they pay the whole of the 6 months in advance.
Yeah, so Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have to pay the $45 for the 6 month, regardless of when you start the club. So it's not aligned in a way with our renewal period. So just because you start in June doesn't mean that you pay only for 3 months. When you're starting a club, you always have to pay the 6 month fee, which is $45. And if they are not a dual or reinstated member, then they have to pay the new member fee, which is $20, right? What happens is that at the next renewal period, you will just balance it out. So instead of paying for the next 6 month $45, you would probably pay less to align it with the renewal period.
Yeah, that's correct, saying when a new club is chartered, all of the members are enrolled for 6 months and they pay for 6 months. And as you say, whenever that happens, there is a balancing charge coming on later to bring the club into the full 6 months dues renewal cycle internationally. As somebody said, is the best time to charter March then? Just to get the 6 months right? I'd say no, just get it chartered and sort out the
Yeah,
balancing charge
yeah,
later.
yeah. Of all the 4 clubs I started, only one of them started in April, but the other 3 were in other times. You can balance it out later, so it doesn't matter. When you get the opportunity and you have everything in place, go ahead.
So everyone's unmuted if they want to ask a question to Zain. Hello, Mert.
Yes. Do you know how long it takes on average, to charter a club in Ireland?
No idea. No idea. I can just say
I'd
from
say,
my,
sorry?
yeah, I haven't started a club in Dublin yet, so I'm not sure.
Right. I think it takes about 2 years, but I could be wrong. I have
Yes,
never heard of it. I've never heard of a club chartered in Ireland in 3 months.
I think
Yeah.
the question we would ask in that case is, why is that so, right? I can think of few reasons why it would take that long, especially if you're starting in a town which doesn't have a Toastmaster club before. Definitely will be harder. Or if it's a small town, it definitely will be harder. If it's a big town or it's a corporate club, it will definitely not take 2 years. And I think we can target 3 months for every new club. That's my opinion. I think if the planning is done right and the kickoff meeting is done well, there is no reason why it should take that long.
Thank you.
Yes. I think in the past, Mert, people have had the common expectation that when you apply to organize a club, Toastmasters International gives you 2 years to do that. And I'm thinking pre-pathways. And it certainly has been the case that the planning involved for clubs that I've been involved with was as laid back as expecting it to take 2 years. And I think the kickoff meeting, we had 2 guests and 18 Toastmasters. And it took us 18 months eventually, but we built the club.
Thank you too.
But you just talking about Ireland, you do have a very interesting point. And from some of the research that I've done of Ireland, almost every town with a population above 5,000 and certainly above 10,000 already has 1 or more Toastmasters clubs in it. And we have clubs in towns below 5,000. I think Listowel last year that took 3 years to charter is one example. And I think the club in Charleville is about 4,000 or 5,000 population there, and that's a struggle at times. But there are success stories, nevertheless. Now, there's another question come in from John Cox. How would you approach an organization to encourage them to have a corporate club?
I think the best way to approach a corporation, and that's what I tried as an area director last year, was to simply find an employee of that organization that is currently a Toastmaster. It's just simply so much easier because they know who the right people are in that company. Sometimes it's harder from outside to know who is the decision maker in this organization. It's harder to find a contact for them. It's harder to arrange a meeting with them. If you know somebody from inside, then it's very easy because they know who the right person is and they can actually organize a meeting. Now, either if they're a very experienced Toastmaster, they can go ahead and pitch it themselves, or if they need help, then it's the area director or division director or anybody from who can help actually, who has to go there with them and pitch it to the decision maker. I really feel it's important that we only pitch it to people who can say, yes, here is the money, now go ahead and do it, rather than to people who are somewhere in the middle. It just takes so much longer, and I feel like it's not worth the time and the effort. So just go ahead directly to the top. Usually those are the people that know the benefit the most as well, because they are in their position, usually have to speak in public. They understand the importance. They understand the importance of leadership skill. So it's much easier to convince them. And the last point I would add here is, and having an employee of that organization actually does help in that, is finding a unique proposition for that specific employer, right? For example, in my case last year, there could be an argument that engineers don't need to speak, because majority of the employees for Nokia in my city were all engineers, including myself. I was an engineer. And you could make an argument that we don't need a Toastmasters club because we are all engineers, right? So you have to find places where those engineers have to speak, and there were a lot of places where they give training, or they describe something new to the team. Or in fact, Nokia used to organize a conference where a lot of the employees from Nokia would give 1-hour sessions, and those were not good public speaking examples, right? So I use that as an argument that if you would have a Toastmasters club, those people would get practice and the skill inside rather than hiring someone from outside. So those things might be the way to approach a corporation.
The one. What if the organization has a Toastmasters club in another country? Does that make it easier to approach them?
If they have another club, oh yeah, that's actually a very good point. So one of the arguments I used with Nokia was that, hey, we don't have it in Poland, but they have it in India, they have it in US, and they have it in other countries. Why don't we have it in Poland, right? That creates an internal competition as well. And I think on Toastmasters website, you can find a link where they have listed all the corporations where currently a Toastmaster club exists. Or actually much easier way is maybe to go to dashboard and just type the name of the company, because usually the clubs names are after a company. So you can usually find, that's how I found all the Nokia clubs. So that does help. Additionally, there is usually a problem in the corporation club on how to pay the fees. So I don't know how it works in US. Probably it's much easier, but actually in Europe, it's a complete headache sometime with the finance and, to organize all of those things. And if you can find another club in the same organization in some other country or city already established, you may want to contact the organizer from there and see how they handle all those financial stuff, so that you can just, don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you can just copy them or just understand them, how it all works. So it really, really does help. It helped us in Nokia for sure.
Alex Lewis has written a question now. What number of members in a club would you suggest to split? Well, I could give a little bit of an answer to that. After the split, both clubs have got to be at charter strength, which is 40 or more, 20 or more, sorry. So that would make the target size for considering a split as 40. And the other piece of advice on splitting of clubs is splitting is a divisive language. So finding 2 or 3 Toastmasters within the group who are prepared to put on an alternative offering on another night and allowing the members to migrate between the two is a softer approach.
Yeah, and just to add to that, so very good points from Daniel. And just so happens to be the club that I was a member of last year, we got too big, and at some point we decided to split. So one of the 4 clubs that I started was actually a split from a current existing club. And I would say 20 is a good number, but you have to keep in mind that, especially if it's not just after the renewal, if let's say it's January, so 3 months after the renewal, you cannot be 100% sure that all of your 40 members are actually active unless you have data on all of that. So wait till the renewal. Once the renewals are done, you get the real picture, how many active members you have. In our case, when we were finished with renewals end of March, we had 41 members. And we thought, okay, we are already struggling to give speaking slots, and it's becoming harder and harder to manage so many members. How about we start a new club? We didn't say we are splitting the club. So Daniel is very much right in that. The language is very important. Splitting really scares people off. You're not splitting a club. What you're doing is creating a sister club. That's how we advertised it. And we were lucky enough to get the same venue just on a different day. We were lucky enough to find few people who were willing to start the club and become the president and the officers. And we just did and what we did was that we just didn't just simply ask people, okay, hey, these are the people moving to the new club. No, we asked people who of you would want to move to this new club, and we got like around 15 people. So we were still 5 short. And what we did was we did a kickoff meeting. So we got 5 brand new members to join to this club. And as a result, by the end of the chartering process, we had 29 members in the original club and 20 members in the new one. So this would be the right approach, although it does require planning as well. So I would say approach it carefully and do it just after the renewals.
Okay, thank you, Zane. I've got 2 different questions here coming from different sources. One came through WhatsApp a minute ago, and Helen Kelly's on the line tonight, and she's made an inquiry about starting a club within a public sector organisation. And Brenda Lannon, our public relations manager, did ask the question, would you approach a public sector organisation, such as a local government, such as a hospital, in a different way to a corporation?
I don't know. Honestly speaking, I have no experience in that. And we didn't have any such clubs in Poland, so I cannot speak from that experience. I did talk to a person from Australia last year at a conference who used to work in a public sector organization, and he told me that that's their goal to start our clubs there. And from what I remember our conversation, it wasn't any different than from corporation club. The only thing I maybe would be different maybe is how it's sponsored, right? Corporations generally have a budget for education and things like that. I'm not sure how it works in a public sector organization. It may differ from each organization. So you may want to think about that. Is it going to be members paying themselves and things like that? So, but on the other hand, I think doesn't really matter. You have to find that unique selling point, right? What is the benefit that public sector organization or its members would get from a Toastmasters club? That's the most important. If you have that figured out, the rest is just the logistics.
Yes, I think that's a very fair point. Understanding how it would be paid for, would it be part of human resources budget? Would it be staff paid? Are those the sorts of questions you need to have within a public sector organisation just as much as a corporate sector? And you could perhaps expect a bit more procedures rather than just snap decisions in a public sector. But there are examples. Buckinghamshire Council, although it's District 91, had a Toastmasters Club within it, and may still do. So it's certainly there are cases out there where this happens, Helen, and it's just a question of understanding who the senior managers are that are needed to say yes to make it happen. And once you've got them on side, the rest of it should fall into place. And some questions from John Cox. First, our district director, he likes to remind us that there is a list of corporate sponsors on the Toastmasters International website, and this can be used for research to help find which of those companies are active in your location. And if they've already got one club, they might be persuaded to have another one right where you are. It's a comprehensive PDF, so it does take quite a lot of patience to go through it and to start to spot where you might have some synergies to exploit. And John Cox would also like to thank you, Zane, for a very useful webinar. The last question, Elizabeth Jordan. We know that new club mentors play a key role post-charter. How soon do you assign the mentor, and what skills are you looking for?
Well, my experience, we usually assign the mentors when the club was just very much close to chartering or when we were sending the forms. And when I was area director and I was asked this question, who can be the mentor, I looked at experienced Toastmasters. So you need people who have had some experience as a club officer, at least. They don't have to have any experience in the district, actually. They should, but they should have some experience as a club officer, preferably a president. Then they know how to run a club or what goes into that. If they're a good speaker, it's always a plus point. And then it might be nitpicking now, but when I had the Nokia club, that was a corporate club meeting during the day. So I didn't want mentors who have 9 to 5 jobs, right? Because it would be much, much harder for them to come and actually visit the club. So I looked in my circle at Toastmasters, experienced Toastmasters, who had their own business. Turned out there were 2 people who are public speaking coaches and trainers, and they had their own business, so they don't have a strict 9 to 5 schedule, and they could, on some weeks, find the time to come and visit the club. So that might be one thing to consider as well when starting, when assigning mentors. And of course, they have to agree, right? They have to want to help. If they have no willingness to do it, it wouldn't really help.
2 insights I can offer about mentors. One is that if you need your team of 4 people, if you can find your candidate mentors, then they can form part of the team at the beginning. And that happened in my case at Northampton Speakers, is that a team of 4 of us, 1 from each of the clubs in the area, we got together, 2 of us were sponsors, 2 of us were mentors, and that worked very successfully. And the other thing to point out is that the district director or myself as club growth director have no more than 60 days after the date of charter to put in any sponsors or mentors that were left off the list. And we had one case this year where we really struggled to get retrospective recognition because sponsors and mentors had been left off the paperwork. And it happened right on the 30th of June when Gerard was transferring to me. Very fortunately, we were able to prove in that case that the sponsors and mentors had been listed in a covering email, but not on the forms. And Toastmasters International accepted that they didn't see that and act on it. So we got away with it, but it could have cost 4 DTMs if we hadn't succeeded with our argument. Alex Lewis. Could you repeat the mention about the sponsored deadline? Alex, yes, if you haven't applied in the paperwork for the sponsors, Form 1 is that I think they go on.
Yeah.
For the sponsors, either when you put the application to organise in or when you complete the charter documents, I can do it retrospectively, or John Cox can do it retrospectively, but no more than 60 days after the date of charter. After that, it's lost. 60. Super, thank you, he says. We're shot over by 8 minutes, but it was a useful discussion. I was happy to continue it. I'd like to reiterate the district's thanks for Zane for putting this webinar on tonight, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking your time to engage with him. And hopefully, on behalf of District 71, we look forward to working with you on in the future on a new club proposal or even a current one.
Yep. And if you have any question, feel free to reach me through whatever channel you see fit.